All right, coming at you live New Year's Eve today from Lincoln Center. We got the guy that's going to teach you all about systems and processes, and he is the king of coaching here in the Dallas area. Coming up next on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. That says guarantee, doesn't it, C3?
Is that a written guarantee? Or
That is a written guarantee. You can take it to the bank and
cash it?
Cash it, baby.
I love it.
Talking about COVID cash, which you were saying earlier,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Are you ready for New Year's?
Are you kidding me? I'm ready for today's show. And then New Year's will follow after.
I am
but
super stoked about today's show.
I'm excited to put 2020 behind us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 2021 is in sight, man.
It is.
All right, now we're going to ask our spiritual guru to join in.
I
Dr.
like it.
Giles, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about y'all, man?
Good, man. I'll tell you, it's raining outside.
It is, but it's sunshine in the studios today, man, because
It
I got
is,
you,
man, but
you two
you know-
smiling faces in front of me.
It's raining so hard, it's like a cow peeing on a flat rock out
Oh,
there, man, I'm telling you. In fact, we were driving up, and I saw the animals pairing up on the way up here.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
That's a good Cliffism.
Yeah, there you go. So we're going to have to do our little sports jive here and figure out who's going to win the Eastern Conference in the NFL. What do the
man.
Cowboys got to do?
You know what? I think they have to beat the Giants tonight, and they also have to have Washington lose to Philadelphia, which it pains me to go for Philadelphia, but we're going to have to go for Philadelphia today, man.
Hey, man, we had the Christmas star this year, first time in, how many, 700 years? So
Yeah.
you never know what could happen, right?
You never know, man.
Does that mean the stars are aligning for
The
next year?
stars are aligning for next year. That's right, for sure.
Wow.
And, let's not forget the Mavs.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They slaughtered the Clippers away for their first game.
I
Then
saw
they had
that.
their first home game last night.
And they kind of laid an egg a little bit, but, it happens to the best of us.
I think they must have been popping the champagne cork at halftime, during that game.
They let the 50-point lead at halftime the last game go to their head. That's what it was.
Man, that was first time. Wasn't that the biggest lead in NBA
NBA history.
or
Yes, indeed.
Something like that.
Yes, indeed. One for the books.
Yeah, indeed it is. Well, guys, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, welcome. So excited to have you here. Without further ado, I want to introduce one of my dear, dear friends who I met back in 2012. We coached together some of the top agents in North America. And this guy is an Iron Man, and you're going to see what I mean here. Watch this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome John Kitchens, my dear friend. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, man.
Man, we
Glad
are
to be here.
super stoked to have you here. And this is what we got. We're going to call this Rider Downer Day.
Rider Downer.
Okay.
I like
We're
it.
going to have a bunch of Rider Downers for everybody in the audience. And John is one of my favorite people. He's a real person, and he has a heart to help people. And C3, you've known John for a while. You remember back in 2012, you were still in high school. I think we played a round of golf with John,
did.
didn't we?
Yep.
Back in the
Yep.
day. And
Yep.
a lot of people don't know, but John used to be a golf pro. at one point in his career, and now he's a highly sought after real estate coach and somebody that everybody should get to know. If you're in the real estate business, he is an influencer and somebody you really need to get to know because he can help you, I promise. John, welcome. And I wanted to ask you so that we can kind of pull the curtain back now.
Absolutely.
And take a look at what sort of is behind that. John, by the way, that was a great little sizzle reel that you put together for us. Now, that was Holly, your wife.
Yes.
Is also an influencer.
She is.
And she's got her own podcast. Let's give Holly a plug here.
Yeah, absolutely. She's, a lot of the magic that happens behind the scenes and has happened behind the scenes within AEA over the last few years. It's usually her pulling the strings. So, yeah.
And what's the name of her podcast?
She's kind of in transition. She's got a few different things going, but I know you can connect with her at hollykitchens.com. That's the best way to get connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's very much, she's had an influence on a lot of women in business, and really understands a lot about sort of that, the woman, the marketing and things that, that need to happen. We're all different, right? And thank goodness women are wired different than guys are. Otherwise, it'd be pretty boring. But, she's really got stuff figured out, and somebody that, again, that you really want to get to know. So, John, let's start back. Take us back a little ways. I know you grew up in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And you grew up around some other friends of ours.
That's right.
Jay Kinder and Michael Reese,
Yeah.
who are now, I was having to think, God, they're in Puerto Rico. That's crazy, man. Hard to believe. But Jay just moved yesterday.
Yeah.
And so you grew up in Lawton, right? And you were just an ordinary, family, just,
Man.
what was it like growing up as little John?
Yeah. Little John. So I'm a three as well. So, my dad, high school, lifelong high school coach and teacher. If you're growing up in a coach's home, right, the only way that you get to see your dad is you better hop in the truck, right, and you're going to practice and you're going to you've got to hang out. That's the only thing because, as we know in Oklahoma, you have to coach multiple sports just to help make ends meet with, the salary up there. And but it was my favorite, right? Getting to go to practice, getting to hang out with the other coaches, getting to hang out with the players, hang out in the locker room. And I was that kid when, the kickoff of the football game, the little kid that ran out and grabbed the tee and ran back. That was me. I was that kid. So it was fun. We had it was great growing up. We had obviously family growing up. My mom, she passed away from breast cancer when I was 11, so my sister was a couple years younger. So that transition with my dad and being able to spend more time with him, and really, I think that's where that heart of gold and that giver mentality was really instilled from him. And he's absolutely my hero, just for all that he's had to go through, and really being able to just kind of. Just you got to watch him and just model the behavior and how much he just gives and gives and gives. And so I think that was really instilled in me, and just seeing from him and just, coming from a place of contribution and adding value all the time.
So your hero growing up was your dad.
Yeah.
That's badass,
sure.
man. Yeah, mine was too.
Yeah.
So at some point in your young life, you picked up some sticks, right?
That was another
you
one of
started
those.
swinging a golf club.
Yeah,
How
that was
did
another
come
with
about?
him. That was the same thing with him. He played there at the Muni golf course, and got me my set of clubs, and I would hop on the back of the golf cart and ride around with them. And I had my own set. I would run out in front of them, get a couple holes ahead of them. But that's where that really started, and was just hanging out from there.
Sound familiar, C3 at all?
Pretty familiar.
Getting the chills. Yeah. I didn't realize John was a third too. It's just very cool.
You never know what can happen on this show.
And he's still a stick, by the way. His golf game hasn't. I think it's gotten better.
Yeah.
As time has gone on.
Well, he was good enough. Did you get your card? Your teaching card?
I did. I had my teaching card.
Yeah.
And so, I was going down the wayward path in Lawton, Oklahoma. And, that's where you mentioned Michael. That's the connector. So Michael and I go back to junior high school days. We played golf together. So we were on the golf team together.
Yes, Mike Reese, a great golfer.
Yeah. So we were on the golf team together. And we were actually first roommates out of high school into college, and so we all went to Cameron. So played golf there at Cameron, but I was probably more so on the drinking team than, really, putting my heart on into the golf team.
Sure. Yeah.
And so my aunt got a hold of me, and so she was really another one of those instrumental, people in my life. Losing my mom at a young age, so she really kind of, stepped in, and she said, "Get your butt out here." So she still lives in California, and she lived on a semi-private resort, 36 hole, and they had it all. And, I've been really fortunate enough to have some amazing mentors, amazing bosses in my life. And my boss out there at the golf course, she was amazing. She took me under her wing. And it wasn't just, I'm going to, teach you how to teach or run the golf shop. She's like, you need to understand the GM's role. You need to spend time in the kitchen. You need to go understand what's going on with food and beverage. They also had lodging. So she really taught me the dynamics. And that's where I think really helped me from a business standpoint to see all of the different angles. And, she let me fall flat on my face with the merchandise, right? So when David Duvall was #1 in the world, and, Tommy Hilfiger and whatever all he was wearing, I was like, oh, we got to fill the golf shop with this. And she knew in the back of her mind it wasn't going to work. But she let me fail. And I think those were just some great lessons. And, just being able to be fortunate.
Good sales on Tommy Hilfiger.
We did have some good sales.
Yeah, right.
There was another stud, dominating the golf scene at that time, Mr. Tiger Woods. So,
TW, yeah.
Yeah. So that was short-lived.
Yeah. So he made the red shirt on Sunday famous,
yes, he did.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
The things that you learn in golf, and my son was involved, and I remember when First Tee got started. Was that around when you were?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That has to be, in my opinion, just one of the greatest organizations, because golf is built around sportsmanship. It's built around not cheating. It's built around it's you against the golf course. It requires focus. It's the coaching part of golf. We always talk about the 5.5 inches between your ear. I remember that article in Golf Magazine about Jordan Spieth talking about Cameron McCormick, working on those 5.5 inches between his ears. He said, that's what I got to get together on this next round of golf.
Yeah.
How did that sort of lead you? And I know there's another story about real estate, how you got into real estate, but how has what you learned being a golf instructor, is that an impact on your ability in the way you coach real estate agents at all?
Yeah, I think it, golf is one of the things that will humble you the quickest. And I love, being able to go and spend time with people on the golf course and see how they behave, because that usually shines a light into how they're going to behave in other situations and other scenarios and everything else in life. And competitive, like I don't care to ever play competitive golf ever again, just because when I go out, I want to have a cigar, I want to have a couple beers, I want to relax, I want to play with people that love to do the same thing. They hit a bad shot, they smile about it, laugh about it, drink another beer, let's go to the next hole or whatever. And I think you find, those characteristics in people, and understanding that they don't hold on to things and they let things go. And, we probably will get into it in, conversation here in a little bit, but I think that's one of the key characteristics that I see in success in real estate agents in their business, is that they have a short-term memory, right? They know they're going to make mistakes, but they're focused on the bigger future, and they're willing to let, they're not going to get hung up on, that bad tee shot, or I just pushed one dead right out of bounds, tee it up again, So I think those things, there's a lot of similarities that carry over from the golf course into life. And I don't know, that's just what I love to myself, because I've been on the opposite side, right? I've been the kid that, slinging the $200 putter right into the pond, and so it's just that being able to learn from that and grow. And I think the same thing applies to life and to business.
Okay. Just sort of to kind of fast forward a little bit. You spent a little time on the food and beverage side of things.
Yep.
Right? Ran a restaurant.
No, it was bar.
Bar. Okay.
I want to be real clear about this.
Okay.
Because this is what led to actually being able to get connected with Kinder. When I left California, I moved back to Oklahoma, hooked up with high school buddies, and serial entrepreneurs. And, you know, they were building chain restaurants all across the country. And he wanted to get off the road, but he needed somebody he trusted to be out there with his business partner. And so, I mean, pretty single at the time. So, you know, it worked, being able to bounce around. And then as I was having my son, my oldest son, and I said, hey, man, I'm off the road. I'm staying home. And he's like, all right. Well, we ended up selling that business, and we ended up selling 2-3 other businesses as well in about a 3.5 year period. And we're sitting there and kind of figuring out what we want to do next. And he's like, hey, you know, that place up the street's for sale. I think we should buy it. I was like, all right, cool, let's go. Well, it happened to be a bar establishment. And 120 straight days, this was 2004, 120 straight days from January 1, 120 straight days later, I had not had a day off. I'd been in that bar every day.
Yes.
And you know, when you walk in at 6:30 in the morning and you walk over and you go ahead and pour you a little, you know, Crown on the rocks, you know, you got to make a change in your life. And word got out that I was out of there, and Michael Reese had found out, and he went to Kinder and he said, you better hire this guy. And I met with Jay in October of 2004 and started November 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was with the real estate team in Lawton, right? Jay's
Yeah,
dad
so,
was
you know,
Coldwell Banker, and
yep.
Jay had a team, and Dad had a team. And
yeah, Jay was already successful. And what's crazy, you know, Lawton, Oklahoma is small. Mm-hmm. I had heard Jay on the radio. I'd seen his picture. I'd seen everything, but I had never met him.
Right.
And so we got together. The first time I met him was sitting in the office, 1146 Northwest Cache Road, big 2-story monster of a building, and it was actually being remodeled at the time. We sat in the remodeled office and went through the disc test. We talked, and yeah, ended up working out. But you know, Jay was already, you know, on that rise. And in 2004, we ended up closing 340 deals, and then next year we went to 430, and then we went to 521. And it wasn't without putting the, you know, the rails around this. I would liken Jay at the time was he was a rowboat with a 1100 horsepower motor on the back, right? He's just going, he's all over the place, and he just needed some structure, and we were able to put some structure in place, and that allowed it to make that jump to get to that point.
And hearing you tell this story reminds me of the story of how Mike and Jay reconnected at Lake Texhoma one time.
Yeah.
When Mike saw Jay go by in this fountain going about 100 miles an hour and decided he wanted to find out what Jay was doing, right?
Yeah.
He says, how did you get that boat? And he said, well, you know, it was real estate. And then Mike said, well, I need to learn real estate, basically. Will you put me under your wing? And
Yeah.
that's kind of how they got together.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. So was that the year that Jay was number 2 Coldwell Banker? In
Yeah,
the
that
world?
would have been 2006 when we
06.
hit 521.
Right.
And you know, it was a rough year. I mean, we had, you know, the team was the largest that it ever was. New opportunities were popping up. You know, distractions
Yeah.
really start to come into play. And you know, when you get to that point, the more, you know, it's like, oh man, life's gonna be better when you're doing more deals, you become more successful. And the opposite is true. You know, more opportunities come your way. So if you don't have a really good decision-making process, you end up saying yes to a bunch of stuff, and you get spread super thin. And that's what was happening. You know, there was a lot of that. And you know, at that time, you know, you start to see the cracks in leadership. And at that, you know, for us, it was really it was a challenging time and experience and opportunity for growth. And you got to keep in mind, I mean, we were already, you know, we're already working with Jay Abraham at this time, right? You know, we've already been to Anaheim. We've already spending time investing in with him and learning like sponges, and you know, just trying to chase all of these opportunities and not understanding some basic fundamental leadership principles. And that was the one thing that was missing for his personal development and mine as well. And you know, what we went through and what we experienced was that in the absence of a clear vision and a clear path for opportunity, that's where your key people will think. And we're seeing this in the real estate space as well, that, hey, there's no opportunity for me here. Let me go look somewhere else. And we've always talked about it with the fundamental flaw in the team model is that you lose your top people out at the top.
Absolutely.
Because financially you can't make the adjustments in the model to make the business still be profitable for your best people. And so that, I mean, we can dive into EXP or whatever, but this is what I love about EXP is that it solves that problem because it gives your key people a place to land to where they don't leave you completely.
Right, and you continue to receive the benefits from the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears that you poured into them.
All right.
To teach them what they need to know to be successful.
Right.
So, and we will dive into that in just
Sure.
a little bit. So let's see. So at this point, you guys had already, because Jay and Mike and Jay in particular was a Proctor disciple for a long time.
Right.
And then a lot of people think that Craig Proctor invented the guaranteed sale program. He didn't. Ask Jay Abraham, right? Jay Abraham invented it and basically gave it to Craig. And then at some point, you guys, before I met you, because the first time I heard about Kinder Reese, I was coming out of the bathroom at Keller Williams and I ran into Mike. Mike looks at me and he goes, "Hey, aren't you the coach at the Market Center here?" And I was the productivity coach at the time of the Frisco Market Center. He goes, "Hey man, I want to talk to you." He says, "Me and my friend Jay, we got a coaching program when we need a coach. Come by my office." And I was like, we were washing hands and stuff. I'm like, okay, super, I'll come by. And I met with Wally and Jay and everybody, and shortly thereafter I was in with Kinder Reese. But when did that sort of become the direction that Mike and Jay and you guys wanted to go with coaching? Because you started out selling websites, right? Wasn't it?
It's crazy. Where it all started was they were going to write a book called Coachable. And then the over-the-web 3D web opportunity and web agent solutions
That's right.
became the distraction.
Yes.
And so, if we've seen the clip, Jay and I were in Anaheim, and Jay walked up to ask Jay Abraham the question to get some guidance on, hey, what should we do? Thinking about this program, we're either, hey, do we franchise this? Do we coach this? What do we do? And the clip where Abraham says, I would partner with them, right? And so this was 2006. And he says that. And so, they get distracted with over the web, web agent solutions. We're flying to Philly. We set up, a team. We have a team in Lawton office. We're selling websites. And, that's where I was kind of going with where when you don't see the vision in the bigger picture, your key people don't think that there's an opportunity for them. And that was the leadership growth. And, maybe we've heard the story, but when Jay talks about his right-hand guy takes his business partner, his top two agents, and one of the key admin, and goes and becomes a competitor. That's what happened.
Right.
So we go out and start up, and I'm pro partnership, but we can talk the nuances of being a partner with one partner and the nuances with two other partners. So. I learned a lot during that time away from Jay as well as he did. And I didn't talk to him for 2 years. And he kept trying. And then finally, let ego get out of the way. And, we got back together and thankful we really did. And, we made amends and apologized and had a few beers and, talked about really what is the vision? What is the big picture? What is it that we're wanting to accomplish? And that's what was missing. And now you feel a part of, you're a part of something, right? The contribution, right. And you're making a difference in something bigger.
But you got your graduate degree in that time, though.
I did.
In leadership and what,
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And I actually, that was the period there where I actually got into the trenches and sold pretty much full time. So running and building a new company, two different partner dynamics, as well as selling at the time, and so I got licensed immediately when I got on board with Kinder, but during that time that we were apart, that's where I okay, right? Agents used to BS me a little bit, and okay, you can't BS me no more. So it was great to have that perspective. And during that time, I picked up a relationship with one of the top builders in the state, and became really good friends with him. And when I ended up, he was the reason. So, what's that single best piece of advice you've ever been given by somebody? It was by Willard Barnett. And we were sitting outside the model home one evening, and he pretty stern, used a couple choice words, but he said, "You're an idiot and you need to get back to kinder." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so really listening to him was what let that ego get aside,
right,
and connected back with kinder and got back on. And when we were talking, that's when, this was Kinder Reese. So it was taken off shortly thereafter. Mike had that conversation with you. And, Jay was like, "Hey, I can't do this without you. I need you to run this office."
Right.
And so that's when we took the reins and ran with the Lawton office and really understood the business dynamics. That's where really understanding profitability, getting introduced to Greg Crabtree, spending a lot of time with him, structuring the model that way.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive into it, because I've always thought you've had a great business sense and a great business head. And you're a numbers guy, you like to go into the details and stuff. So it started out with Greg Crabtree, and then, I was part of that process. I remember when we did the mastermind in Scottsdale when Greg was there. And then we had Vern Harnish and really went down that leadership role and, the Rockefeller habits, and then scaling up and things like that. And then mindset, Gary Dade Rodriguez, just some of the incredible talent that Mike and Jay, or Jay and Mike, Kinder Reese, whatever, NAEA, it's had it's changed over time, but the core of, really taking experts from outside the real estate industry, and because that's where a lot of good change comes from, and it comes from outside of the industry, and I think you guys are, collectively the company recognized that. Let's talk a little bit about how. Now you got some amazing things going on yourself right now. Along this journey, you really sort of started specializing in systems and processes. Let's talk a little bit about, in particular, what does that mean in terms of the real estate business? What is it what are the levers and the dials and all the stuff that encompass the systems and processes that you're an expert in now?
Yeah, I think, in looking outside the industry, I mean, that was Jay Abraham, really poking at us on that one. It was like, hey, if you just model what's happening within the industry, you're going to have, maybe 10%, but more likely 6% actual growth. Where the exponential growth is when you take those blinders off and you look at what's working outside of the industry. And that was just one of our beliefs, and that's what we always looked at, and working with Frank Kern, working, with everybody that you had mentioned. And also, I think one of the other ones was Clayton Mask at Infusionsoft. That's that leadership piece that really took things to the next level for us. But I think really early on, especially when I got on board with Jay, this even goes back to the golf course days, and just even, it's just routines, right? Right things, right order. All three of us play golf. We have we have the same routine. Like I've played one round of golf in the last 2 years, and yet the time that I went and played, it was like nothing. I mean, it's the same routine. It's the same stepping in, same little waggle, same 3 strokes with the putt, whatever it is, right? So it's that same sequence. And so that was instilled there. But when I got on board with Jay in the beginning, he was really people dependent and had some bad apples. But it was like, okay, but if I fire him, who's going to do that? And so it was a pain. And that's when we started, okay, hey, we're going to document everything. There's going to be a checklist for everything. That way, if that person don't come in, it doesn't matter, right? Somebody else can step right in, and it's the same consistency. And so we just went to work, and we started just making a list. Hey, okay, this is the biggest threat. Let's fix this one first. And it was just, we didn't overcomplicate it. It was really that simple. And it was just, hey, what do you do? And, hey, can you do this? Why are you doing it that way, right? And so just starting to question everything and all the process that everybody did, and really just to help to optimize it. And I really wish we would have had the power of video like we do today, and it would have made things even that much easier. throughout the whole process. So if you guys are listening in right now in the real estate space, you probably don't have this problem, but we were juggling 200 plus, listings in inventory at the time. And I think right now in the lot market, there's only like 230 active listings right now. And we had over 200 during that time. And it was just like, man, how do you, maintain, the client experience? Don't let communication drop. How do you, to do that? And you don't do that just relying on people. You have to have, a set sequence.
I mean, we, Jay and the bunch, we were one of the first people to introduce Net Promoter Score to the real estate business. I know it's a big thing. Glenn Sanford, our company lives by, NPS, Net Promoter Score and stuff, but it was actually, is my first observation of it being used in real estate was when we basically adopted it. I mean, we started with, Jack Mitchell rating fans, and then how do we measure and what are the KPIs, and that sort of became the metrics that we live by.
Big time.
But I mean, there were so many innovative things going on back in those times when I was there between 2010 and actually I think I started in 2000, maybe 8 or 9, and was with the group for probably 8 years, I guess. But it was really incredible to see some of the ideas, because up to that point there had only been Gary Keller. I mean, Gary, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent was, the Old Testament, and it was the only Bible at that time that you could, refer to make any sense out of real estate. Since then,
fantastic.
And that's a Hall of Fame book, just like Gary Keller is. But there's a 2.0 version now that's being written as we speak, and we're part of that book that's being written. Like you said, it breaks down the faults, the bad parts of all the old team model, and it makes it so that everybody can win instead of just one demagogue or the team leader, and then everybody else is just a worker bee kind of thing. It allows everybody to self-actualize. So now that you're coaching, you've coached in a lot of different environments. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing with some of your current clients. What are some of the things that you're doing with your biggest and best clients now to get them to the next level? And not only that, but how have the goals changed in the last, say, 5 years compared to what you coached to back then?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. I think, what I've learned is that, and this is one thing that I was really proud, and I learned a ton from you getting, with the coaching. Just had the opportunity to be taught by you and Wally. I couldn't think of two better coaches on the planet to learn the real estate space, learning that from you guys. So I was super fortunate, one, being in the trenches and what we're doing, and they're modeling this coaching company off of what we're doing out of Lawton, Oklahoma. And then have, be able to work with you guys. It was just the right environment. And so, understanding that there's only one goal in business, right? That's to make a profit. And so making sure that people understand that. Now, there's a couple different ways we can get there. And that's the question, right? What's the goal? What is it that you want to accomplish? And then let's structure this business model that supports that. And I think that's the biggest thing that's changed for me, kind of the evolution with the coaching, is that there's a bunch of different ways to get there, right? But let's figure out where there is first. And I'm not pushing my agenda. It's not about me. It's about, the things that we teach and coach on are principles. They work in any business. It doesn't matter if we're selling snow cones. We want to set up the best lemonade stand out here. We're going to use the same principles that we apply with the coaching clients. And so that's where we really look. But it all starts with, what is it that you want to accomplish, right? Where do you want to be in 10 years, right? What does this have to look like for you to say, damn, that was well worth the ride? And so many agents don't think that way. They're so short-sighted. You probably know this statistic, but how many are thinking, if we would have had this conversation 3 weeks ago, I guarantee you 90, 80, 85% of the agents are only thinking through Christmas. They're not thinking 21. They're not thinking 22. They're not thinking 23. And that's one of the things that I look for in when do I know that success, like this guy or this lady is going to, they get it? It's because they're thinking in the future. They're not stuck in the present. One of my favorite quotes from Dan Sullivan is, for your present to be better, your future has to be bigger. And that's where I look for, because real successful people, that's what they're focused on, is how can I make my future bigger, right? How can I, push like $1 million in revenue in a year? Like, shit, how are we going to do that, right? And then you accomplish it. It's like, okay, we got to think bigger, right? We got to get to that. What's the bigger number? And so that's really what I really look for in individuals, but it also comes back to their individual goals.
Right.
There's certain
So
people
the
that don't wanna
goals,
build
let's talk about the goals for a minute, because it used to be wash, rinse, and then at the beginning of every year you had to do the damn thing all over again, right?
Yeah.
And then another business model showed up, thank the good Lord, okay? So that not only long term do you not have to reinvent yourself every year, but you can create generational wealth through passive income and through equity ownership now that the model has been flipped upside down. Because back in the old days, the broker used to be where the value was provided, right?
Right.
Wouldn't you agree? I mean, when my mom was a real estate agent with Ebby Holiday back in the little White House, Ebby got all the leads, and then she basically fed the brokers. The brokers were the agents. They were very dependent on the broker. Nowadays, agents generate their own leads. They run their own teams. The value of the broker has diminished unless you're talking about the value of leverage,
Right.
which is in the platform, okay?
Yep.
What are you coaching people to now about where they need to be in 5 years? What is because if you go the old MREA method, you're going to be 7 levels, you're going to have a lot of blood on the carpet, and you're still not going to have an exit strategy. How are you teaching people now they can build a business and have an opportunity maybe to retire from real estate as opposed to become somebody who had to quit selling and then outlive their money, for example?
Yeah, I think, it goes back to, really thinking about what is that exit strategy for you. Had a conversation with one of my favorite clients, longtime clients, and she was like, I just don't understand how these agents don't get it. She goes, my first agent before she became an agent, she goes, they put her in hospice. She was showing properties 2 weeks before she went to hospice. And that's real in real estate.
It's
until
wrong.
now. It is wrong. It is so wrong. And nobody's ever got them to see that there is a better way. And for us, for so many years, like we would debates, conversations on end, how can we add more value to the agents? And the old model just there wasn't enough to be able to pour back into them. And if you really say, and I hear it all the time, I care about my people. If you really, really care about your people, you would be at EXP, because that is a model and a platform that you can plug your people into that they can give what you can't. There is nothing being independent or any other franchise or any other, you can't give what you can plugged into a better platform. And so, like, if you say, and I hear it all the time, but they're still not at EXP, but they say they care about their people. And it's like, if you truly, truly care and you do what's best for them, then, you have to look at it. You have to look at the model.
Lars Heddenborg, he was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he had a scotoma, a blind spot, self-admitted, and he's one of my dear friends, and we've known Lars back from 2010 when he started coaching with Kendra Reese. Right?
Lars flew in. He spent some time with us in the Lawton office.
Yeah. What an influencer, what the things that he's achieved. We should all be humbled. He's just killed it. And, his testimony now is, look, the most expensive thing that you can own in life is a closed mind. That's the most expensive thing you can own.
Yep.
And and again, I'm not trying to influence people whose gates are closed and are happy where they are. there's always going to be room for lots of brokerages and so forth.
Sure.
But depending on what your goals are, and that was really the reason for the question, is what are your goals? If your goals are to make as much as you can per transaction, well, you should be a broker. You shouldn't work at a discount firm or a transaction only firm. You should just go be a broker, and you have no costs, right? I mean, you're paying yourself. If your goals are to make a career out of this, then you've got to look at a model that's going to support those goals and provide the kind of platform that you need to be successful. Talk to me a little bit, because one of the things that's on a lot of people's minds right now is they get to a certain point with their business and they kind of saturate their MSA, their market, and they look for expansion opportunities. Mm-hmm. How are you coaching people now differently into expansion opportunities than you did 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think the focus has to be, and the same client that I was mentioning, we had a conversation about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, and I was like, your progression is you've got to become a marketing agency, and then you just happen to sell real estate. And she ran with it. I mean, she's got a team of 5. She is a marketing agency.
Well, let's face it. I mean, McDonald's is really a toy company that sells hamburgers, aren't they? Or they're a real estate company that sells hamburgers. I mean, they're the largest landowner outside of the Vatican, I think, of property. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, it is. You have to look at that, the difference there. And this with the consumer right now is so smart, right? So about 10 years ago, only about 40% of the consumers had consumed some information about you before they talked to you, the salesperson. Now,
this is so important. I know what you're about to say. This is so important, John.
Now, it's about 70% of the consumers have consumed something about you, content. They know you before they talk to you, the salesperson. And if you see where the trend's going, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, it could be anywhere from 90 to 95, and in some industries, 100%. So where do you see more value? Being the salesperson or becoming the marketer? You've got to become the marketer. You've got to go all in on content. So that's where we're coaching through that aspect, content first. Well, what content do I shoot? Well, what questions do you get? If you get a question, it should be a piece of content. And so we're looking for that. But you're talking about going into 2 other markets. So we've got a client right now in California. He's transitioning out of Sacramento down into the Bay Area. And right now, the strategy, what we're doing, he's a single agent. He's not interested in really expanding just yet. And the one thing that's working is new construction leads, new construction opportunities. And cost per lead is like $4, $4.40, I think, is where his cost per lead is right now. Average transaction is $15K plus.
In commissions, yeah. So that's in the Bay Area is what his cost of leads are? That's cheap. I mean, you go down to Marin County, San Francisco, pay-per-click leads are $50 easily.
Yeah,
$60
he's over in the East Bay.
Yeah.
And it's, he's got
Oakland and anywhere there.
So that's kind of where we're looking. That's what we're seeing that's working well right now.
Yeah.
But the big driver, you guys, has got to be content.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be the content focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it's a long-term game. I think that's where a lot of, just like we were talking, real estate agents can't see past their next commission check. So it's the delayed gratification. They're like, oh, I don't see the result from it. No, you're not going to see the result from it. But anything worth building is going to take time. And I think that's where a lot of people, it's the overestimate and underestimate. And so they just...
What do they say? Yeah, we overestimate what we can do in a day or 2 or a week, and we really underestimate what we can do in a
decade.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what I've been able to do in 4 years, and other people like me, and and it's
incredible.
I never thought about it. Never thought it was possible. And I hate to say this, but gosh, just looking at the clock, we're bumping up against the top of the hour here. But this guy is, one of the smartest guys I think I've had on the show, and I'm just really grateful. We do need to kind of work toward a little closure here. I want you to give your best nugget. You shared something you said earlier you got a good piece of advice that changed your life, your builder that you worked with. do you have a nugget that you could share today with an agent out there? Let's say they've been in the business a year, they're struggling to get traction. What is the best piece of advice that you could share with them right now?
Get a coach.
Get a coach.
Get a coach. We kind of talked Ironman, and so when I first started training for my first Ironman, I was like, I can just figure this out. I found a couple programs. I'll just do it by myself. And got to about 3 months to the event, 3.5 months to the event, and I was lost. I was like, what do I do? How do I get to the event? How do I do transitions? How do I get my bike there? What am I doing? And I was like, this is ridiculous. And it goes back to the principle of who, not how. And I think just the generations before us, it was prideful to mow your yard. You took pride in washing your car. You took pride in doing all of these things that are taking time away from the things that matter the most, that drive the most results in your life, be it high lifetime value or high leveraged activities, and figuring out, okay, who can I get on my team, or who can I get to help me do this, instead of me trying to figure out how I'm going to do it. And that's the biggest growth lever for all of us. If you can just start embracing who, that's the first question, not how am I going to do this, but who can help me with this? Who can I get on my team? Who can I hire to help me accomplish what I want to accomplish? So don't try to figure out the how, just find a who.
I got to tell you what, if you didn't write that down, you need to go back and just replay the last 3 minutes of the show here. That was absolutely key. A lot of people think that coaches, and we're talking about, there's some people who say they're coaches. Find somebody who's done it. Find somebody who's been there. Don't find somebody who's brand new in the business and saying they're a coach, something like that. But sincerely, do your research. Find a great coach. If somebody had questions, John, that arose from our show today and they wanted to follow up and ask you, what's the best way for somebody in our audience to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you guys are probably watching this on Facebook right now. Just message me. Just message me on Facebook, and then I'll go back and I'll throw my email into it. It's John at johnkitchens.coach. So that's the email.
Coach.
Coach. Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't even know they had a .coach.
We're gonna go buy a few URLs.
We're gonna go hit GoDaddy here when we.
Go Daddy.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it. That's awesome, John.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Man, I am just, it's so exciting because EXP has brought so many of us back together. You mentioned before, you and Jay separated for a while. We all kind of go our different ways, but, generally speaking, when there's something that is extraordinary and it's good for everybody, this is a small world. We all come back together. And I've never seen more people coming back together again after trying to do their own things and perfect this and perfect that, realizing that this is the best of all possible worlds for everybody. Right. And just to see the amount of collaboration, because we're all so aligned with, the pillars of income and the collaboration that goes on. And that's why I said I'm so excited. I got goosebumps thinking about you being on the show today, because you and I worked really hard a long time ago to help change agents' lives. That's what we were dedicated to back then. And now we have so much more reach thanks to this thanks to EXP, together. Because we're able to do things like this show and to help build, coaching now. We don't have to charge people's credit cards. We can actually invest in them,
right, and
then get paid on the back end, which, that's a whole different thing than what it used to be. And it's just such a wonderful, I'm having more fun than everybody I talk to says they're having more fun now than they ever have had in their real estate career. So it's just been a blast. Well, John, again, thank you so much for being on the show. It's so great to connect you. I'm sorry, Holly, if you're out there listening. I asked John I asked John to bring you too late, and she said that you're just kind of you're preparing for tonight and tomorrow. So I get that, but we're going to have you on the show too if you would honor us and be a guest.
Yep.
C3, wrapping another year up, my friend.
Today was very, very cool. I as a young kid growing up, you just see things from the outside, and now that everything's kind of coming back full circle, it just kind of warms my heart, and it's just cool. I mean, it's just part of God's plan for all of us. So
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is. Dr. Giles,
Trelvis.
Yes, indeed.
I want to thank you so much for all the hard work and effort and love you've shown us in 2020.
Not a problem.
Although the road's not always been smooth, we've had a few bumps, not because of you, but we had a little COVID scare one time.
Absolutely.
You know, we just had some things go on this year that have just kind of been unusual.
Sure.
But I just want to tell you how much we love you and thank you for who you are and helping us and for being an integral part of our show. And we're excited about 2021, baby. It's coming
Most
right down
definitely.
the pipe here, and we're going to be back for another 52 episodes, hopefully, of Cliff's Notes in the next year. So you guys in the audience, thank you so much for being here today. We love you, and we wish you the best new year ever, right? Talk to you soon next week right here on Cliff's Notes. All right, folks, tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it!